Introducing our keynote speaker and temporary chairman of the convention, it is my great and high privilege to present to you the Honorable Robert E. Smiley, Governor of the state of Idaho.
Mr. Chairman, fellow citizens, all America may take pride in the outstanding Republican governors who contribute so much to our states and to the nation. They have worked closely together in formulating positions on the important issues of the day, and they recognize that one great requirement of this era, the vital need to maintain a strong and a workable relationship between the federal and the state governments in order that government be close, be responsive, and be responsible to the people that it serves. One of these great Republican governors is a neighbor and a friend of mine, a bright, young, persevering star on the political horizons of the West and of the nation. He inspires the young people of our land with his high ideals, his intellect, and his integrity. He impresses any citizen from any walk of life with his sincerity, his dedication, and he has won the respect and the devotion of Republicans everywhere by his loyalty, his zeal, and his effectiveness in projecting that philosophy which makes this party and this system of government that it serves the greatest in the world. His record of achievement for Oregon in the past 5.5 years has brought distinction to his state and widespread personal recognition to him. His is a storybook career, a living document of what one Republican can do for his state and for his nation in a few short years. He was a precinct committeeman, a county chairman, an active young Republican, a delegate to 3 previous Republican national conventions. He has served as a member of his state's House of Representatives. He was a state senator, and he was Secretary of State in Oregon before he was elected and then re-elected governor by the people of Oregon. He serves as the chairman of the Conference of Western Governors, and this attractive and versatile man has a background of devotion to the nation and to its future. His profession before politics was education. He is an active and devoted churchman, a combat veteran of World War II in the South Pacific, and he has received numerous honorary degrees in 8 states for his work in education, religion, and government. May I now present, and will you join me in a warm welcome, to an outstanding American citizen, the father of 2 fine youngsters, a political leader of demonstrated skill and talent, a forceful man, a man with the courage of his convictions and with integrity clearly written on his handsome countenance, the distinguished governor of the great state of Oregon.
CBS News correspondent Robert Pierpoint has just reported to us from Goldwater's suite in the Mark Hopkins Hotel that Senator Goldwater will have no comment tonight on Governor Scranton's letter of yesterday to him, the letter that Governor Scranton told us in an interview just a few moments ago he had not written nor had seen before it was dispatched by a member of his staff, but apparently under his direction to Senator Goldwater. And now, Governor Mark Hatfield being presented to the convention.
Me to drink much water, did you? knows. A bandit needs lots of water.
Governor Smiley, Chairman Miller, my fellow citizens, we meet here to nominate the next President of the United States. Our platform and our candidate will have the support of a united Republican Party. And let me say to each and every Republican, we cannot afford the luxury of the hand-sitters in the parlor. We need laborers in the vineyard come November. And the candidate of this convention will have such laborers from every Republican throughout the United States. We promise no miracles, but we believe that the responsibility of our Republican Party is to seek liberation of mind and body and spirit, and to call up the best America has to offer. The Republican Party is committed to a set of principles. This commitment is an act of unwavering faith in the American people, in the cause of freedom, in the eternal principles of morality. And there is a stark contrast in the record of the present administration. In place of faith, we find fear. Anxieties and tensions infect and corrupt our country. At least 3 fears have typified this administration: fear of the facts, fear of the future, and fear of the people. The fears of the facts is most clearly revealed by the cover-up, the refusal of the Senate majority under administration pressure to examine fully into the questionable actions of a Senate employee, violates the solemn pledge of the Democratic platform of 1960. It said in a very simple sentence, and I quote, "The conflict of interest statutes should be revised and strengthened to assure the federal service of maximum security against unethical practices on the part of public officials," unquote. You cannot sweep a hi-fi set under the rug and expect the bulge not to show. The Republican Party strongly believes that America should be a land of opportunity and not a land of opportunists. But the most telling examples of this administration's fear of the facts goes back 4 years. That was when the party of fear and failure adopted a platform that consisted of 20,000 words and 261 promises. And we are still waiting for over 200 of these promises to be fulfilled. Four years ago, the Democratic candidate for Vice President declared, and I quote, "A platform is drawn up for the submission to the voters If the voters approve of it, they will make their decisions known forcefully in November. And it is the duty of the party to carry out the decision in the following Congresses, unquote. Now, my friends, what we did not fully realize at that time was that the candidate for Vice President of the United States was standing with one foot on the banks of the Rio Grande and the other foot on the banks of the Potomac. And that in these two postures, we find that his national foot pointed towards school integration. His state foot pointed towards school segregation. His national foot pointed and advocated the repeal of state right-to-work laws, whereas his state foot endorsed a right-to-work law as, quote, necessary, unquote. I say to you that one cannot dance for long on two platforms without stubbing his toe. And is it any wonder that the speeches we have been hearing from the White House dancer sound as if they come from a man of two minds? We only have the record to point to. In 1960, we heard about a missile gap. The nation was told that our advantage in missile leadership was shrinking. The fact is, there was no missile gap. Today, however, there is a missile gap from Cuba to Key West, and it is 90 miles wide. And so we say to the American people, don't be fooled by an administration which is a master of distraction and whose snow jobs have changed the climate in Washington. We ask you, was it a Republican administration that presided over the fiasco at the Bay of Pigs? Was it a Republican administration that neutralized Laos and so initiated the chain of events that threatens freedom throughout all of Southeast Asia? And I ask you, was it a Republican administration that ignored the problem in Cuba until it erupted into rioting and bloodshed? Was it a Republican administration in power when the Berlin Wall was built? You know, and all Americans know, that these things have happened under the misrule of the opposition in the past 4 years. With such a record, it is not surprising that this administration fears the future. It relies on the panaceas of the past, especially the mid-30s. Its record is one of reaction, not of progress. And more than a century ago, we were warned that every progressive spirit is opposed by 1,000 men appointed to guard the past. And this administration, I say, has no progressive spirit in it. The current administration finds in automation not the elimination of drudgery and the foundation for a higher standard of living, but only the threat of unemployment and poverty. The current administration finds in the fantastic expansion of our agricultural capacity not the blessing of relief from hunger, but a reactionary excuse for expanding bureaucratic regulation. The current administration should wage a war on the poverty of its own ideas. Wedded as it is to the past, the administration will learn that the complexities of the present cannot be met by a simple passage of a bill in Congress or by the spending of large sums of money on ill-considered programs that deal only with the causes and not the symptoms, and by sloganeering and headline hunting, stage-managed expeditions whose essential purpose is publicity rather than action. Herbert Hoover, a great Republican and one of the world's greatest humanitarians, and may I always say to any Republican and American audience, my boyhood hero, 30 years ago made this very eloquent statement of the Republican Party's faith in the future when he said, "Advancing thought, science, discovery, and invention are constantly imposing new surroundings upon us. Constant reform is an essential part of the protection of liberty, and society, to be successful, must secure the effort and the initiative of its citizens." These were Hoover's words 30 years ago that are as appropriate today as they were when they were stated. And so I say to you, this nation cannot afford to follow the banners of retreat and reaction. This republic needs new leadership, leadership that is unafraid of the future. We need to ponder and seriously what 4 more years of reluctant backing into tomorrow would do to this nation. We need leadership that does not evidence fear of the facts or fear of the future or fear of the people. Time and again, this administration has revealed distrust of us all. Why do they fear telling the American people what our foreign policy is? Even when American boys are dying in a war without a name. Tragic as is a tomb for an unknown soldier, still more tragic is the fate of the unknowing soldier whose life may be lost in a battle the purpose of which he has not been told and which he is not allowed to either win or to conclude. On the domestic front, the administration's fear of the people is demonstrated by its lack of confidence in the capacity of the individual to manage his own affairs. Demonstrated in the capacity, in its lack of faith in the capacity of state and local government to deal with state and local problems. and in the capacity of our free institutions to adapt to the challenge of change. The banner behind this podium is the answer that we Republicans make to those who would have us believe that the state should be the master instead of the servant. The Republican Party offers America a choice between fear and faith. The Republican Party, with its devotion to the principles of Lincoln, with its dedication to the cause of freedom exemplified by the service of Dwight David Eisenhower, with its century-old tradition of progress, and with the commitment to the principles of morality, we offer America a program of faith. We have faith in the value of our open society, where people of many lands, minorities all, have migrated to these shores. Each has added richly to the cultural diversity that makes this the unique nation in all the world. We have faith as the historic party of human rights that for those minorities which do not now have equal opportunity for education, for employment, for housing, that we can find the means of assuring to each of these the requirements of progress. We have faith in our capacity to defend human rights against the forces of bigotry and hate within our own country. With the authors of the Declaration of Independence, we know that the rights of men are endowed by their Creator. They are not bestowed by men. The state is not the author of freedom. The state has a duty, however, to support and defend civil rights, the political rights, the rights of opportunity that some men, in defiance of the Creator, would destroy. We have faith in the forces of law and order under our Constitution. Our faith challenges any who would destroy freedom, whether they wrap themselves in a false cloak of patriotism or an equally false cloak of religion. There are bigots in this nation who spew forth their venom of hate. They parade under hundreds of labels, including the Communist Party, the Ku Klux Klan, and the John Birch Society. They must be overcome. And the Republican Party will lead the quest for victory in the struggle to change the minds and hearts of men, because it is only by such a victory that human dignity will be won and preserved. We have faith that the American nation and system will prevail against the communist menace that stalks and threatens to bury us, and against the fascist that lurks and threatens to capture us. We oppose both dangers in the Republican Party. And we have the energy, the knowledge of the enemy, and the faith in freedom that will maintain our liberty against either danger. We have faith in the Republican Party in our educational system as the foundation of self-government, as the mainspring of economic progress, as the source of brain power for the defense of the state. We have faith in the free enterprise system in the Republican Party. And let me remind you that capitalism in the United States has brought us to the highest standard of living in the history of the world through the common interest partnership of the worker, the investor, and the consumer. We have faith in the working man and the working woman of America, their skill and their productivity. We share their aspirations and support their right to organize and to bargain for their economic benefit. We have faith in our ability to find the means of distribution that will assure that hunger is not the neighbor of surplus. We have faith in the strength America draws from her natural resources. We support the programs of conservation and development initiated in the administration of Theodore Roosevelt. We have faith in our capacity to help those who are in their senior years to avoid the ironic hardship imposed by the bitter harvest of inflation. And we have faith in our federal system, as in a nation as complex as ours, it is a necessity, but more than this, it permits us to solve our problems in a way that no monolithic national government could do. We have faith in our nation's capacity for leadership of the free world and in the capacity of all free nations to find the means, including the work of the United Nations, for achieving a world that is truly free. We have faith in the programs of assistance to other nations if only the aid that we offer demonstrates vision, certainty of purpose, and a clear understanding of our needs as well as their needs. But the most fundamental faith of the Republican Party and of all Americans must be in the strength of our religious heritage and the need for a spiritual renaissance in our country. A decade ago, a great Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, pointed to the central role of a righteous and dynamic faith. Without such a faith, he said, all else avails us little. The lack cannot be compensated for by politicians, however able, by diplomats, however astute, or by scientists, however inventive, or by bombs, however powerful. Our greatest need is to regain confidence in our spiritual heritage, John Foster Dulles said. Now, ladies and gentlemen, government is not in the business of dispensing religion. However, government, by its example, shares in the setting of the moral standards of this nation. To hold a political title does not excuse the holder from high standards of ethics and morality. If this nation's leaders do not demonstrate integrity of ideas, integrity of action, they will surely destroy the moral standards that guard us from decay. And each political leader owes, especially to the youth of this nation, an example of right conduct. Every citizen is entitled to expect that his political leaders will, by their political and personal behavior, add luster to a free government. We need leaders with the certainty of faith and the commitment of purpose of the valiant few at Valley Forge, who won their battle for us against overwhelming odds. The political party assembled here tonight faces similar odds, but we have as our strength faith in the people, faith in the future, and we do not fear the facts. In the program of the Republican Party is a victory for all Americans, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, and it is to them that we present the invitation to set out again on a pilgrimage of faith. In this faith, in this commitment, in this hour of solemn rededication, this convention must display the wisdom, the progressive spirit, and the leadership that is so desperately required by all who would be free. Thank you.
The 1964 Republican Convention's keynote address by Oregon's 42-year-old Governor Mark Hatfield. Campaign 64, CBS News coverage of the 1964 Republican Convention will continue in just a moment.
Honey, I've been thinking about retirement.
At 35?
No, I'm just planning ahead.
What do you mean?
Well, I was talking to our life insurance man today, and he told me that when I retire, I can get paid regularly from my own policies.
That's wonderful.
I thought so.
And you'd still be alive, of course.
Yes, that's the nice part of it.
How long will you get these payments?
You won't believe this.
Try me.
Well, he says the life insurance company will pay us the same amount every month as long as either one of us lives.
Really?
Positively.
And you've included me.
Well, you're my wife and all.
Your only wife. I'm unique that way.
That's funny.
What?
He says life insurance is unique. It's the only way you can guarantee retirement pay you can't outlive.
Unique. Your wife and your life insurance. I think that shows what a really warm human being you are.
See your life insurance agent. He's trained to help you make the most of your policies.
This is the CBS Television Network.
Kampman Jr. of Texas and William W. Treat of New Hampshire, the co-chairman of the Convention Program Planning Commission, are preparing to present the temporary chairman's gavel to Governor Mark Hatfield. And down on the convention floor, Roger Mudd is with Tom Brown, the chairman of the Florida delegation. Come in, Roger.
This is Tom Brown of Tampa, the chairman of the Florida delegation, where we have just had a break in the delegate strength for Senator Goldwater. How many votes in your delegation, Mr. Brown?
34 votes from Florida.
And how does it look now to you?
It looks right now as if we have every expectation of a solid delegation. Right now we have 33 votes for Goldwater.
33 for Goldwater?
Correction, 31.
31.
Out of 33. We have 3 that we're working on.
And that you're working on? You mean putting pressure on?
Well, we have the expectation that we'll have 34 delegations. We have 31 delegates.
When you came to San Francisco the other day, what was the breakdown?
I would say when we arrived in San Francisco, there were probably 18 votes for Goldwater.
And so you've now picked up 12, 13, haven't you?
That's right.
Why this sudden change today? Has anything happened that...
Well, of course, the convention opened today, and the pace has been picking up and quickening, and the delegates felt that now was the time to move. So many of these delegates, of course, were original Goldwater delegates who were elected as unpledged delegates, and we came out here as unpledged, and we felt that now was the time to move.
Did the voice vote on the change this morning and the series of votes in committee today have any effect on the Florida decision?
I'm sure that each of these had some effect. I mean, it wasn't any one single factor. This was something that's been in process, I'd say, for the last 48 hours.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much.
All right, Walter.
And Governor Mark Hatfield has just accepted the temporary chairman's gavel from the very lovely Mrs. Ike Kampman, a San Antonio, Texas National Committee woman from Texas, thanking the convention. And very shortly he'll be proceeding to close this session of the convention before the convening again tomorrow afternoon. All right, Governor Hatfield's keynote speech was quite notable for the fact that he came out flatly for the first time from this rostrum against the John Birch Society.
Yes, it was a strong speech by a very attractive young man indeed. Part of the whole trick of a convention speech, of course, is to give the impression that your party is totally different from the other party, and yet universal in its appeal and open to everyone. This he accomplished very well. It was good language. He did go much further than the platform. In fact, the platform hasn't mentioned extremist groups at all that I recalled, certainly not the Birchites by name. And Senator Goldwater has always refused to attack them specifically. This was a very strong attack on them, very much what Governor Scranton must want the platform itself to contain. He was not so strong on the civil rights aspect of this quarrel here, the other prong of the quarrel. He talked about the fact that rights don't come from the state, but the state must support them. He didn't use the word enforcement that Governor Scranton wants in, and he did not call upon all Republicans to support the civil rights law as such. It was a strong attack on President Johnson, and the first personal attack on him we've had. It was a little hard for me to decide whether he was criticizing the president for being a hypocrite or schizophrenic. He talked about the national foot of Mr. Johnson and the local foot. Otherwise, the things you might expect, the attack on the Cuba policy, Southeast Asia, the claim, a fundamental claim here, that the Democrat administration always falls back on the theory and practices of the New Deal and doesn't have anything new to offer. And the first time the word fascist, by the way, has been used, and I assume by that he means these extreme right-wing groups inside the country. I suppose the best speech so far, wouldn't you say so?
I would think so, befitting the keynote address. It would be really too bad if the keynoter on the very first day of the convention couldn't deliver the best speech of the convention. He's supposed to, and I think Governor Mark Hatfield certainly did well. He got off on what might have been, if things hadn't, if the facts weren't a little different, have been an unfortunate opening there when he didn't realize that the microphones are open, and I suppose most of our friends out there in the television audience heard it even as we could hear it when he said, you didn't think I was going to need much water. The Baptists need a lot of water. Well, he is a leading worker in the Baptist Church, is a teetotaler, in fact, runs a very dry executive mansion in Oregon, and probably does need a lot of water as an orator on the floor. Just now, at this moment, down at the podium, they have adjourned this first evening session, the second session of the 28th National Republican Convention until 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time tomorrow. That's 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. A session which will hear from former President Eisenhower and will also have the floor fight on the platform planks that the forces of Governor William Scranton and others seek to put into the platform. The planks on extremism, on civil rights, and perhaps still on the matter of presidential responsibility for nuclear weapons and the use of them. Although Governor Scranton indicated to us earlier that perhaps that had been dropped, we hear from the Scranton forces that it seems to still be a matter of some consideration tomorrow. The plan that Senator Hugh Scott revealed to us for tomorrow's session is an hour's debate on the extremism and civil rights planks, this agreement with Senator Thurston Morton, who tomorrow will become the permanent chairman of this convention, and perhaps a shorter time on the presidential responsibility for nuclear weapons. CBS News coverage of the 1964 Republican Presidential Convention will continue in a moment.
What gives Tareyton the taste worth fighting for? Just this. There's a difference you can see in the filter. It makes a difference you can taste in the smoke. Look, Tareyton has a white outer filter and an inner filter of activated charcoal. Fine granules of activated charcoal in pure cellulose. And the charcoal filter works with the white filter to actually improve the flavor of Tareyton's fine tobaccos. Yes, there's a difference you can see in the filter. It makes a difference you can taste in the smoke. So get the charcoal filter with a taste worth fighting for. Join the unswitchables. Smoke Tareyton.
Us Tareyton smokers would rather fight than switch.
Tareyton from the American Tobacco Company.
Our correspondent, Hughes Rudd, who ever since I knew him years ago as a reporter in the Kansas City Star, and now for several years with CBS, has always had a keen eye for the lighter moments of such pretentious events as national political conventions. And he's down in our newsroom just off of the convention floor now with perhaps that light eye cocked upon these days' events. Hughes?
Well, Walter, I think it seems pretty obvious
that a lot of the delegates are not getting any sleep in San Francisco. That's one thing I've noticed today. Coming in this morning, they seemed like a pretty testy crowd. They were a bit snappish with the button vendors, and they were downright hostile to those Corps demonstrators who were parading around outside all day. One man got so angry at the Corps people that he rushed off and made a little sign about like that said, "Down with the love mongers." The statement was as puzzling as it was exclamatory. I think the reason the delegates aren't getting any sleep and are so jumpy is that the hotel corridors are full of shouting people all night long. They're arguing about where to go for a late snack or conceivably about politics. And the reporters are all on expense accounts, so they're overeating, and indigestion is keeping the reporters awake. The result is that just about the only chance anybody gets to get any sleep is while the speeches are going on in the daytime out here at the Cow Palace. The speech makers, I suppose, sleep while somebody else is making a speech. Now, there's a strong feeling, or at least I have it, that this indigestion issue has even reached to the presidential candidate level. Governor Scranton turned up at the Iowa beef producers' steak cookout today in a bare patch of ground over by the cattle pens, and he immediately announced that he was so fond of corn that he was going to eat at least 2 ears of it, and he did, along with a steak and a considerable amount of California dust. That combination of roasting ears and a politician is irresistible to photographers, as we all know, and sure enough, they were as thick as flies at milking time, as they say in Iowa, and the governor may have wound up eating more corn than he really intended, just trying to please the cameras. Senator Goldwater was invited to that cookout, but he didn't show up, and neither did Mr. Eisenhower. There were 400 steaks on hand there, and the reporters gobbled them all up, despite the difficulty of putting salt and pepper on the meat in a stiff breeze. There was a lot of sneezing, but the steaks were free, so the press stuck with it. They had a live sample of steak out there, too, Walter, a young black Angus steer named Sir Percy. That sounds like he might have been a steer from Illinois, but he wasn't. He was from Iowa. And a pretty blonde who was leading him around told everybody that she was from Des Moines. But she wasn't. She's a San Francisco model, and she said that she thought Sir Percy was cute. The Iowans, rather, obviously thought that he was steaks. This is Hughes Red, Walter. Now back to you.
Hughes, you don't know what a can of worms you've just opened up here tonight. I was just saying, Hughes, I noticed you didn't have your earpiece on, so we'll go through this all over again. I noticed you don't know what a can of worms you've opened up here tonight with that statement that photographers were as thick as flies in milking time. I have spent the last year in correspondence with the only sensitive photographer I know of in the world who lives in Oklahoma because somebody on our network said that about photographers a year or so ago, and he's been mad about it ever since.
Well, you'll get another batch of letters.
Yeah, I know. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
I'll send them along to you to be answered.
Right.
Harry Reasoner is on our delegate count board and has some startling new figures, I think, for us. Harry?
I don't know whether they're startling or not, Walter. It is nice that the delegate board today reflected what was happening on the floor. In other words, Goldwater looks substantially stronger here tonight than he did this morning. And I think in this case, our neat figures reflect the untidy delegates. He's picked up strength all day in places like Wisconsin and Kansas and Florida. And we now show him, at the end of the day, with an anticipated first ballot strength of 809 votes, which is, what, 154, 160 more than he needs to get the nomination on that first ballot. It's also interesting that his strength here, 809 for him to 217 for Scranton, is not too far different.
Harry, excuse us a moment. We understand that Senator Goldwater is talking to the newsmen. Let's go down there.
Right.
Well, I was very charitable. I said I couldn't imagine a gentleman like Bill Scranton ever writing a letter like that, but he did sign his name to it in his signature, and I've written him enough handwritten letters and have enough on file from him to know that it is his signature. If he didn't know what was in it, I suggest that he read what his aides put out.
What was your reaction to the letter? So you've been described as what?
No, I wasn't mad about it. I sent it back to him because, frankly, I didn't believe that he could send such a letter. And I said so in a note to him, and I quoted a little statement from Lincoln that when he received such a letter through a newspaper. I hope that Bill didn't write that, but in this business, when something goes out over your name, you're responsible for it, whether you write it or not.
You did see his signature on the letter?
Oh, yes, I have it. It was hand-delivered to me from his office. His office is only a floor below mine.
What was the nature of the note that you sent back to him, Senator?
Well, we released it last night. It's available. Nobody's used it that I've seen, but it was a very clever quote from Lincoln. I always liked to use Lincoln. He was one of our first great Republicans, and when he has something that's of wisdom, which is most of the time I like to pull on it.
How would you describe the relationship now between you and Governor Scranton?
I'd rather have him describe that.
Any clue as to a vice presidential candidate yet, sir?
No, this is too early in the game. We still have a few days to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
We love you, Barry!
So you heard Senator Goldwater say that he did see Governor Scranton's signature on the letter that is now famous or infamous, depending on your point of view.
Senator Goldwater was caught as he was leaving the Mark Hopkins Hotel there by the newsman, and you just heard his statement about that letter. A little earlier this evening, in an interview with Governor Scranton, he revealed to us that he had not written the letter, that he did not have knowledge of its contents, although he had known about the dispatch of the letter to Senator Goldwater, but that because it had come from his staff, he stood fully behind it, and he was not retracting any of it, although he indicated that he felt some of the language in the letter, which was a terribly strong 4-page letter, was unfortunate. The letter has been the topic of conversation among a lot of the delegates today, and there are some who have suggested that Governor Scranton will find the letter has backfired and he's losing some strength because of it. And now, down on the convention floor, a rare position for him, who since 1936 has been in the radio booth overhanging these conventions, is Robert Trout. I can't see him myself at the moment, but you can on the monitor, and now so can I. Where are you, Bob? Where are you sitting? I may find you if I look around hard enough.
Well, this is a very curious thing, Walter. I'm down here. There are lots of seats down here with cushions on them and a lot of people around. It's a very an unusual way to see a convention. I'm down on the floor. Let me see, what delegation am I in? Florida. Here I am. I see you. You see me now?
I still don't see you except on the monitor. I'll find you in a moment.
I'm right at the foot of the camera stand.
Oh, now I see you. Yeah, fine.
Tell me, is it always crowded like this here on the floor? Isn't this odd?
Bob, I'll tell you an interesting thing. I have never seen a convention like I'm seeing it this time. You know, we have always watched these conventions in a television studio just off of the convention floor through an electronic window. We watch just what the population can watch over television. This time, for the first time, I can look out of this huge and almost frighteningly clear pane of glass here right down at the floor, so we're both having a unique experience.
Well, I decided to come down out of my glass box, the radio booth, and see what it's really like on the floor. I came down just a bit earlier as this session was starting tonight, Walter, and it's amazing. You're swept this way and that by all sorts of pedestrian traffic. Before I knew it, I was pledging allegiance to a flag that I think belongs to the Chamber of Commerce of San Mateo. I also prayed, I think, for peace, and I helped sing the Star-Spangled Banner, and then I got back up into the booth for self-protection.
Bob, we heard former President Herbert Hoover extolled tonight by this Republican convention, as could be expected, in the mellifluous tones and words of Senator Everett Dirksen. You must have some memories of past presidents who've been at these conventions, Hoover himself among them.
Yes, Mr. Hoover made the big speech in 1936, first convention I was fortunate enough to go to for CBS Radio at Cleveland, the convention which nominated Alfred Landon. But Mr. Hoover made the first night speech. I don't recall whether they called it a keynote, but he got tremendous applause, and they never could quiet the session again. Finally, the people on the platform, the officers, the chairman, just walked out, and Mr. Hoover, in a very happy daze, went back to his hotel suite, followed by a big throng. He threw open the doors of his hotel and had open house until the early hours of the morning, and really he did seem to think that the convention had been stampeded and was going to nominate him for a second term after 4 years out of the White House.
What happened?
Nothing. They nominated Landon. They nominated Alfred Landon. But Mr. Hoover, as you know, has been at every convention since then. This is the first time that he hasn't been able to make it, as Senator Dirksen said. Isn't it interesting to see Senator Dirksen, grown much older, aged so much, his face showing the signs of years and perhaps of illness too, looking tired, his voice sounding not quite the way it used to, and yet absolutely unique in that richness. It's strange, isn't it?
Well, these are years, of course, that take a rather heavy toll. Since the 1952 appearance, it's been 12 years.
Yeah.
And Senator Dirksen is now 68 years old. He was just 56 when he appeared before this convention in 52. Time flies with us, too, Bob, you know. You're looking remarkably well, though, I must say.
It's the lights, I think, Walter. Thank you very much. So do you. I can see you up there through your glass booth. You look very impressive up there in that huge booth.
It's a magnificent arrangement we have here, and we are all indeed very proud of it.
That 1952 speech, which you remember too, Walter, was one of the most dramatic incidents of any convention that I can recall, when he looked right at Governor Dewey and said, "Don't lead us down the road to defeat again." I'm paraphrasing it, but wasn't that a dramatic? That was a tremendous moment.
Yeah, so we recalled that a little earlier on film and had a look at it. Thank you, Bob. I suppose you're going to get down there again once or twice before this thing winds up, if it does, on schedule Thursday night, and we'll have another chat after the session, perhaps.
Thank you very much, Walter. If you want to be amused, perhaps I'll manage to get down again when the session's on and I get swept around and around in one of those demonstrations.
It might be very amusing. We'll try to get a camera on you.
Right.
Carry the CBS banner high as you parade, will you, Bob? CBS News coverage of this 1964 Republican presidential convention will continue in a moment.
Look who's here, Dad.
Hi.
Hello, Ed.
Hatch. Hey, you're our life insurance man. There's something I'd like you to explain to my wife.
Sure, what is it?
Well, we have a neighbor, Mrs. Ellis. She's a widow, about 75. Here, son. Oh, Helen.
Game over? Oh, hello.
Hi, Helen.
Tea?
Thank you.
Tell them about Mrs. Ellis.
Oh, yes. Well, she was telling me that she's been getting checks from her life insurance company for ever so long.
Maybe 20, 25 years.
That she's already received far more than the amount of her husband's policies, but the checks keep coming.
Yes, that's what we call lifetime income.
You mean she'll keep on getting those checks for the rest of her life?
That's right.
And you've arranged my life insurance the same way for us, haven't you?
I sure have, Ed.
Guaranteeing a lifetime income is just one way that life insurance offers unique advantages. Are you making the most of your policies? See your life insurance agent. He's trained to help you.
It occurs to me in talking about this letter that Governor Scranton did not write, but was sent to Senator Goldwater, that we haven't really transmitted any of the language of it to you for several hours. Those who tuned in late might wonder just what it was that he said so vehemently in that letter. Well, some of the things he said, for instance, he said that Goldwaterism had come to stand for a whole crazy, quote, collection of absurd and dangerous positions that will be soundly repudiated by the American people in November. And he said that the delegates are little more than a flock of chickens whose necks will be wrung at will. It was that and the fact that he accused Goldwater of open contempt for the dignity, integrity, and common sense of the delegates assembled here. It also challenged him formally to that debate before the full convention during the platform discussion, which Senator Goldwater already had turned down. Would have been a precedent-making debate, a precedent-breaking and making one, perhaps. Former President Eisenhower said that while it had never been done before, he thought it might not be such a bad idea himself. But Senator Goldwater turned it down, said it was ridiculous, turned it down even as he had turned down similar debates with Governor Rockefeller and then with Governor Scranton in the primary and post-primary campaign period. Said he would debate the Democrats, not Republicans, which it does seem rather leaves Senator Goldwater open to a challenge from the present occupant of the White House, Lyndon Baines Johnson, to debate on television during the campaign. Although we have been led to believe, haven't we, Eric, in Washington, that President Johnson wasn't too particularly keen on that idea in the past.
Oh, I'm sure he would never do it. He feels unquestionably that he's going to be way ahead in this, and he would take the same position in the fall, I'm sure, that Senator Goldwater takes now. Why risk anything? We're going to see, apparently, the confrontation of two men, Mr. Johnson, President, and Senator Goldwater, who came up to their positions more or less by the same event. Remember in '52 in the great Eisenhower sweep, that brought in Senator Goldwater into the Senate, knocking out Senator McFarland. And Senator McFarland of Arizona happened to be the Senate Majority Leader. And with him out of the Senate, Lyndon Baines Johnson took over the Senate Majority Leader job for the Democrats, helped Eisenhower get a lot of his program through, and that made his stepping stone onto the vice presidency and now to the presidency.
Torturing fate a little bit, but there it is.
A bit. You know, it's been a long day's journey into the night here, Walter. Henry Macon, I think, said a convention is all the fascination of a hanging or a revival. The Scranton Rockefeller liberal people, you know, have thought the nomination of Senator Goldwater and the turning of this party to the right, the south, and the west would be the beginning of its death, perhaps. They've intimated that. But obviously to these people, to the so-called true blue conservatives, this is a revival in their mind. This is a rebirth of the party as they think it always should have been. They're going to carry it. This is the end of the old pattern of two parties within each party, the Congressional Conservatives and the Liberal Presidential Party, so-called. The two are coalesced now with Senator Goldwater. A pattern has been broken. Whether it's the death or the real revival is something neither one of us can tell at the moment. But a lot has happened today, and it set the pattern for the whole convention, I think.
We don't quite write off the convention yet, though, I think, Eric, not solely for the purpose of keeping an audience on television here, but also because there is yet quite a bit yet to come.
Well, I shouldn't have been so specific.
No, I think you're perfectly honest, straightforward report on what's happening. The Goldwater people have this thing absolutely locked up. It's been clear since the Platform Committee met last week. Every vote, very interestingly, every vote in the Platform Committee, the Rules Committee, the Credential Committee has been by exactly the same margin, well, within one or two, 66 to 19, 66 to 20.
This Goldwater machine is a thing of beauty, if not to the opposition a joy forever. It really is a precision instrument.
It hasn't broken on any front. It's gained steam as it's gone along. And tomorrow evening at the session, which begins at 7 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, 4 o'clock out here in San Francisco, really what amounts to probably the last major confrontation in this desperate battle of the liberal moderate wing of the party under the banner of Governor William Scranton of Pennsylvania to try to open up this convention. They'll try to do it with this fight now that will concentrate on the Platform Committee, on the areas where they believe they can possibly peel away some of the Goldwater strength, and if they cannot do that, at least appeal over the head of the Goldwater people to the population to point out that the liberal moderate wing of the party still stands firm, even if it's in the minority, at least as represented at this convention, and to build a record for the candidates who feel they cannot stand with Goldwater, perhaps, the Javitzes, the Keatings in New York, the Scotts in Pennsylvania, and so on, perhaps even the Governor Percy in Illinois, or would-be Governor Percy in Illinois, whoever feels that they would have difficulty, they can point back to the fact that there is this wing of the party that is active, that did put up the good fight in San Francisco. And this is the purpose of the fight. It undoubtedly was the purpose when Governor Scranton announced he was getting into it, when the rest of the liberal coalition seemed to have fallen apart. He must have known at that time that he was facing a very desperate and difficult situation.
I think so. I think he was thinking of his own future, his place in the history books. Did he just take this, or did he make something out of it, at least for the record?
Right.
This has to be admired.
Just how far the fight gets tomorrow, how dramatic it will be, well, that's why it's dramatic. We won't know until it unfolds before our very eyes below our CBS News booth here. It'll be presented in the fashion of the Platform Committee, presenting the Platform Committee's report on what the platform of the party should be. What is it, an 8,000-word document? Something about that, I think it came out as. Not too long as these party platforms go. And then, by pre-arrangement, Senator Hugh Scott will be recognized, and he'll bring in a minority report. And as nearly as we can tell, there'll be one answer from the Goldwater side, and then they'll put it to a vote and presumably roll over it to fail to pass the minority report, and that will be that. This is Walter Cronkite with Eric Sevareid. We're here at our anchor booth at the CBS News headquarters for this 28th Republican National Convention. Until tomorrow afternoon, or special coverage which may occur if developments warrant tomorrow morning, this is Eric Sevareid and Walter Cronkite saying good night.
As part of its continuing coverage of Campaign 64 from San Francisco, CBS News covers the Republican National Convention. Brought to you by the Institute of Life Insurance on behalf of the life insurance companies in America and their agents. By Pell Mell, a cigarette for people who are particular about taste. By Mobil, and more than 30,000 Mobil dealers from coast to coast. And by Salada, originators of instant iced tea mix with sugar and lemon flavoring. Here now is CBS News correspondent. The regularly scheduled programming of the CBS television network was suspended tonight because of the complete coverage of the Republican National Convention. This is the CBS television network.